Travel Thru Grief. The older I get, the more I realize I remember experiences much better than possessions. I honestly couldn't tell you what I got for every birthday growing up. I couldn't tell you every Christmas present. But I can remember standing barefoot on hot concrete, waiting my turn for a slide. A water slide. I remember hearing the lifeguard say, "Next." I remember trying to convince myself that the really tall slide wasn't actually that scary. Have you ever noticed how just saying the words water park, it can make you smile? Maybe you're remembering the first giant slide you ever rode, the smell of the sunscreen, the smell of chlorine mixed with suntan lotion, or the sound of kids laughing before they raced off for the next adventure. Maybe you're picturing yourself floating around a lazy river with nothing on your schedule except deciding whether to go around one more time. Welcome back to Travel Thru Grief. I'm your host, Ellen Beckemeyer, and today we're celebrating National Water Park Day. Now, after some of the deeper conversations we've had recently, I thought it might be nice to spend some time talking about something that's simply fun. That's one of the things I love about travel. Not every journey has to be life-changing. Some are simply joy-giving. Some remind us what it feels like to laugh, to play, and to become a kid again, even if it's just for one afternoon. Growing up in Louisville, one of my favorite summer traditions meant crossing the Ohio River into Clarksville, Indiana. We head to a place called Wave Tech, and right across the street was another water slide park that many of you from the area probably remember. The property has changed ownership over the years, but my memories haven't changed one bit. I can still remember waking up early, or at least my version of early, because I was too excited to sleep. The towels were packed, the sunscreen was hopefully packed, and somebody always remembered something at the last minute. And somehow the drive always felt longer than it really was, because all I wanted to do was get through those front gates. I can still remember walking in and hearing the rush of water everywhere. There were whistles blowing, kids laughing, people carrying bright-colored inner tubes, and music playing in the background. Before you even got into the water, you knew you were somewhere different. You knew this was going to be a good day. That's one of the beautiful things about travel, isn't it? Sometimes the destination changes your mood before you've ever experienced it. National Water Park Day is celebrated every July 28th. And while it might sound like one of those quirky holidays that we see on the calendar, I actually think it's worth celebrating. Water parks have become part of American summers for generations. Families plan vacations around them, friends make memories there. Grandparents introduce grandchildren to the same excitement they once experienced themselves. The history is pretty interesting too. While swimming parks have been around for decades, modern water parks really began taking shape in the 1970s. Engineers discovered new ways to move enormous amounts of water safely, allowing longer slides, larger pools, and attractions that could entertain thousands of visitors every day. By the 1980s, water parks were becoming destinations instead of simply attractions attached to amusement parks. Wave pools, like Wave Tech, gave people the feeling of being at the beach without seeing the ocean. Family raft rides meant everyone could laugh together. Children's splash areas became miniature worlds of imagination. Eventually, indoor water parks changed everything by making it possible to enjoy summer fun even in the middle of winter. Today you can find incredible water parks all across the country. Some people make the pilgrimage to Wisconsin Dells, often called the water park capital of the world. Others head to Orlando for incredible theme parks that combine storytelling with thrilling attractions. Families throughout the Midwest enjoy parks like Kentucky Kingdom's Hurricane Bay, Kings Island's Soak City, Cedar Point Shore's Splashing Safari in Santa Claus, Indiana, and Great Wolf Lodge just outside Cincinnati, Ohio. Every region has places that become woven into family traditions. I love asking people about their favorite water park because no two answers are ever the same. One person immediately starts talking about the biggest slide. Someone else remembers the wave pool. Another person tells me about the ice cream they had afterward. And parents, they remember watching their children laugh. And grandparents remember watching 3 generations together. It's never really about the water. It's about the memories. If you grew up going to water parks in the 1980s, you know it was a different experience than it is today. There were no apps telling you the wait times for the slides. There weren't electronic wristbands linked to your credit card. If you wanted a snack, you dug cash out of your bag, or hopefully your parents' wallet. Your admission was usually a paper ticket that somehow managed to get damp before the day was over. And if your family was fortunate enough and rented a locker, there was a good chance it was one of those heavy metal lockers with a key attached to a giant plastic wrist coil. And heaven forbid if you lost that in the water. You'd hear the clang of locker doors opening and closing all day long. And then there was the walk. Somehow every water park had stretches of concrete that felt like they had been baking in sun since sunrise. We'd hop, skip, and practically sprint from one patch of shade to another because our bare feet couldn't take another second. Once you finally reached the water, all of that disappeared. The cool water made you forget all about that hot pavement. Well, maybe not totally forget. And doesn't every generation have certain smells that instantly bring back memories? For me, it's sunscreen. The smell of Coppertone or Hawaiian Tropic, it immediately takes me back to those summer mornings. Mix in chlorine, hamburgers cooking at the concession stand, fresh French fries, and the faint scent of sunscreen warming in the sun. And you have created a perfume that can transport me right back to childhood. Memory has a funny way of attaching itself to our senses. By lunchtime, everybody seemed to end up at the snack bar. Maybe it was a basket of fries to share, a hot dog, a slice of pizza, or the biggest fountain drink you could carry back to your table. We didn't worry about counting steps or checking nutrition labels that day. We were hungry from climbing all those stairs to do the big slide, swimming and floating, and most of all, laughing. Somehow food just tasted better after spending hours in the water. And then came the ride home. We'd do our best to dry off with towels that never seemed quite big enough. We'd pull on shorts over damp swimsuits, gather up bags that somehow held twice as much stuff as they had that morning, and pile into my mom's car. The seats felt warm from sitting in the sun all day, sometimes extra hot if you had leather seats. And everyone was pleasantly exhausted. And before long, someone was asleep before we even crossed back over the bridge. Looking back, I don't remember every slide I rode or every splash I made. What I remember is how completely content I felt. For one perfect summer day, the biggest responsibility I had was deciding which ride to try next. And somehow, that was enough. And then there was the lazy river. Now, if you know me, you probably already know where I'm headed with this. As a kid, I wanted adventure. As an adult, Give me the lazy river. I could float around for an hour and think I'd only been there 15 minutes. There's something incredibly peaceful about climbing into an inner tube, leaning your head back, and simply allowing the current to carry you wherever it's going. Nobody expects anything from you. You're not trying to win anything. You're not competing. You're simply present. I floated in a real lazy river in Florida once, and it was beautiful because nature surrounded us. But there's something comforting about the lazy river at a water park, too. It's contained. It's predictable. You know you're going to come back around. You know you're safe. Recently, while watching Surviving Earth, I heard the line, "Water teaches us to adapt." That stayed with me. As I was thinking about that episode, it struck me that grief can sometimes feel like being thrown into rough water. You're exhausted because you're constantly trying to stay afloat. Healing, on the other hand, that sometimes looks more like a lazy river. You're still moving. You're still making progress. But you don't have to force every inch of it. Sometimes you simply allow yourself to be carried for a while. Isn't that something we all need permission to do? Life tells us to hurry. Answer your email, return the phone call, finish the project, cross another thing off the list. Even vacations sometimes become exhausting because we try to pack every possible activity into every possible minute. Water parks, they remind us that slowing down can actually be part of the experience. Maybe that's why I enjoy watching people in the lazy river almost as much as floating in it. Nobody looks stressed. Nobody's in a hurry. People, they smile at complete strangers. The kids are waving when they're floating by. Parents are laughing. Complete strangers, they'll ask you for help just to climb into the tubes. For a little while, everyone seems to remember how to simply enjoy where they are. I really wish we could bottle that feeling. One of the hardest things grief steals from us is our ability to play. Not because we're choosing sadness forever, but because life suddenly became even more serious. We have responsibilities. We didn't ask for that. We have decisions we never expected to make. There's paperwork, appointments, phone calls, moments when we just think getting through the day feels like enough. Somewhere in the middle of all that, the play, it quietly disappears. That's why I think National Water Park Day matters more than we might realize. It reminds us that joy isn't childish. Play isn't frivolous. Laughter is not wasted time. In fact, those things often restore us enough to face everything else waiting for us tomorrow. Travel has taught me that movement creates momentum. Sometimes that's a trip across the country. Sometimes it's just a weekend getaway. And sometimes it's crossing a river into another state for the day. We don't always have to travel far to experience something new. And if you're looking for an adventure this summer, maybe visit a water park that you've never been to before. Maybe revisit one from your childhood. Or maybe take your kids or grandkids and watch them create memories of their own. Maybe you'll discover your favorite attraction has changed over the years. Mine certainly has. I used to think the biggest accomplishment was riding the tallest slide. Now I think the greatest accomplishment is giving myself permission to slow down without feeling guilty. That's growth. As we get older, our adventures don't become smaller. They simply become different. We begin appreciating conversations more than competitions. We begin appreciating sunsets more than the souvenirs. and experiences more than possessions. And maybe, just maybe, the lazy river more than that tallest slide. So today, I hope you'll think back to one of your favorite summer memories. Maybe it happened at a water park. Maybe it happened somewhere completely different. Wherever it was, pay attention to what you remember. Chances are, it isn't the admission price or what you packed for lunch. It's the feeling, the laughter, the people you were with, the freedom of having nowhere else you needed to be that day. Those are the souvenirs that never wear out. And if you've been carrying something heavy lately, perhaps National Water Park Day is your invitation to plan something joyful. It really doesn't have to be extravagant. Maybe it's finally visiting that water park you've always heard about. Maybe it's taking the grandkids somewhere they never will forget. Maybe it's simply finding a lounge chair by the pool, closing your eyes for a few minutes, and listening to the sound of laughter around you. Whatever it looks like, I hope you'll give yourself permission to enjoy it without guilt. Because healing isn't always found in the hard work we do. Sometimes it's found in the moments that remind us we are still capable of smiling. As we wrap up today, I'd like to leave you with this thought. We spend so much of our lives climbing careers, mountains, ladders, and climbing toward the next goal. Every once in a while, maybe the healthiest thing we can do is just stop climbing, and maybe it's start floating. Let the current carry us. Let the sunshine wrap and warm our faces. Smile at strangers. Laugh with the people we love. Remember what it feels like to enjoy being exactly where we are. Sometimes moving forward doesn't require another giant leap. Sometimes healing arrives wearing flip-flops, carrying an inner tube, and inviting us to go around the lazy river just one more time. Thank you for traveling with me today. Happy National Water Park Day. And wherever your summer adventures take you, I hope you make time to laugh, to play, and to remember that there is always a way through. If this episode connected with you, I'd love for you to follow our podcast, leave a review, or share it with someone who may need it. Those small actions truly help new podcasts like Travel Thru Grief grow and reach more people. And thank you to everyone who has already listened, rated, reviewed, and supported this journey. I appreciate you more than you know. Until next time, keep finding your way forward.